Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Art Verdoki, and I'm excited to bring you another Connect Exchange. Today, we're very excited to be presenting Verified Volunteers. Verified Volunteers is a strong business partner of ours that provides online background checks for volunteers, and we're really excited to be able to partner and integrate with them to allow Hands-On Connect volunteers to request those background checks and have that information feed into your Hands-On Connect system. Today, I have Beverly McIntosh with me. Beverly is the Vice President for Strategic Programs and Business Development at Verified Volunteers, and a great partner and someone we've enjoyed working with over the past year as we've worked on this integration. So, Beverly, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Art. Again, my name is Beverly McIntosh, and I've been with Verified Volunteers for the last year. Been in the industry for the last 15 years. And I joined Verified Volunteers after a length of time with one of their competitors because I just simply like the solution so well. And I'm going to just walk you briefly through that. Verified Volunteers is a platform that is dedicated, our business is dedicated to volunteer screening versus employment screening or other types of screening, which a lot of folks out there are focused on. We are owned by a company called Sterling Talent Solutions. Sterling Talent Solutions is the largest employment screening organization in the world, meaning that they are a global employment screening platform. And we, as a subsidiary of Sterling Talent Solutions, have the ability to work with their technology. We utilize their technology, their backend for fulfillment. So while we are a relatively young company, we're 3 years old, Sterling saw the need to focus and separate employment screening from volunteer screening. The needs were very different. They're different for the organizations ordering reports, and they're different for an employee versus a volunteer. So that they kind of spun this business off about 3 years ago. We're now one of the top 3 volunteer screening employment companies, or volunteer screening organizations in the world. And we're backed by Sterling Talent Solutions. Points of Light, it was a strong business relationship with Points of Light. They actually are a founding partner of Verified Volunteers, and much of our success is due to the relationships that we have built with Points of Light and the Hands-On Network, as well as Hands-On Connect. With the recent acquisition, about 6 months ago, Sterling acquired an organization called TalentWise. They were probably number 3 and 5 in the screening world as far as size and scope of the business that they had, and that really put Sterling and VB as over the top. So we are now the largest screening organization in the world. We also made an acquisition that just was announced last week with a company called Verified Persons out of Memphis. So we have acquired them as well. Our Verified Volunteers has less than 15 employees, so we're a local screening company. We're run very much like a startup, but we have this large presence and this large this global expertise in screening across the world. We have 3,500 employees. We're in 9 countries. We have 20 offices, and we can do background screening in 200 countries. So we have coverage in 200 countries. Employee screening can be managed by VB. You can do your volunteer screening through Hands-On Connect. Actually, you can use that integration, and I'll go through that in a moment. But you can also go to our platform, initiate a background check as well, and we can also do your employment screening. Though it is separate, those can be combined. Why would you go with Verified Volunteers or Sterling over anyone else? Quality and accuracy. We ensure that you are compliant. That means that you don't have to worry about how far back you have to go in one jurisdiction versus another, because there are some legislation out there where some states you can't go back more than 7 years. And we make sure with our system and our technology that you are compliant when you do a check. Our speed, the speed of the way we do our background checks, we quote 2 to 3 days, but our actual turnaround time for a complete background check is 23 hours. So that I was looking at the statistics for that last night, and 23 hours is our typical turnaround time, and that includes if we have to go do a county search, which means feet on the street, physically going to a county to check a background record. I've touched on compliance, key part. A key part of our business is compliance. Criminal records are treated the same as a credit report under the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and all those rules that apply to a credit report apply to a criminal background check as well. So I'll give you a great example of this that'll give you some insight. If you were to lodge a dispute against your credit report, the Credit Reporting Agency, or CRA, Consumer Reporting Agency, has 30 days to resolve that. The same rules apply with your criminal background checks that we do, whether it's for employment or volunteer, it doesn't matter. If someone logs a dispute with us and something that we reported that we've gotten from a court, we've got 30 days to resolve it. So we are a consumer reporting agency. There are not a lot of us out there. We are one, and we are legislated and governed under those laws. And so compliance is key. We have to be on top of compliance to stay in business. Service. Verified Volunteers has around 4,000 clients right now. We've got 4,000 separate volunteer entities that are clients with us right now. And we have been in business for 3 years, and we have 100% retention. So I'm knocking on wood, but we have never lost a client. We excel. Our service levels are the best in the industry. We we go through many different audits and have different surveys taken with our customer base, just to make sure that they're happy and to scale us, right, to rate us in ways that we can improve, and that is front and foremost us. So we are a service-oriented organization. Our customers are more important than anything. You come first. Technology and integrations. One of the ways to grow, and what I think is key to growing, is really partnering with those solutions that bring more to the table and take things to the next step and streamline processes and make things easier, both from a volunteer, coordinator, or organization standpoint, as well as from the standpoint of the volunteer. Hands-on Connect was identified and is clearly one of our valued partners, one of our favored partners. The integration that we have built with them, we think, changes the industry. It literally changes the industry and the way things are done, and we'll get into that a little bit in just a few seconds. There are 3 different packages. We made a business decision and very early on in our organization not to have folks come in and just put packages together and say what elements they want to make up a background check. And the reason that we did that was because we are clearly the experts in what we do, and we put together recommended best packages that recommended best practices for nonprofits, for volunteers, specifically for volunteer screening. So I won't go into these in a lot of detail, but just very briefly, level 1 is the traditional package that when volunteer screening was actually launched about 12 to 15 years ago. Was the first time that any volunteer screening was done, and that was the package everyone went with because we just didn't know any better. We didn't. Volunteer screening was new to the industry, and folks didn't have a budget for it, and it's expensive, and we're a nonprofit, so there isn't a lot of extra funds out there. So basic criminal locator search is basically just it's a database search, criminal database, but it also includes a 50-state sex offender registry. We also go do a watch list search to make sure nobody's on a government watch list, such as OFAC, which is the Office of Foreign Asset Control, and we do provide monthly updates. Our level 2 search, very similar, Social Security trace. Again, we make sure the Social Security number matches with the name, but we're adding in there a local. We actually go to the county where they currently reside and make sure that there's no record there residing on that individual, pending or existing, or with a deposition, meaning they have a criminal record that's already been deposed, which means there's been a sentence or a finding found, as well as what's pending. There could be something that's in process right now that they're trying to go ahead and quickly volunteer, or sometimes who is in trouble will quickly try and volunteer before something shows up on their record, and that's not uncommon. And then the level 3 just takes it to a whole new level. We also check a law enforcement database for arrests. We also go to every county they've lived in the last 7 years, as well as we will ensure that we look for all those searches with their aliases and maiden names. So if they have William and Bill, and they could have a record under either one, we're checking both names. If it's a woman, we're checking under maiden names, previous married names, and things like that. Just so you have a scope of products to choose from, their best practices, and based on the risk that that position has, if they're one-on-one with a vulnerable population, or are they drawing blood or collecting blood, or are they mentoring, right? Can really make a difference as to which one you want to go to. Building communities. One of the things, in addition to those monthly updates, which I briefly mentioned on the last slide, one of the things that we do, which no one else does in the industry, is we're building communities, meaning we're allowing folks to share their background check. So we're not like the rest of the guys out there in our competitive market, where everybody who wants a background check on a specific volunteer is going to pay for it. We don't believe that's the way it should run. So a volunteer can actually share their background check, and we don't charge for it. So if a background check is ordered and they want to, and let's just say their church has purchased that background check, or maybe the volunteer paid for it, that volunteer also might volunteer as a mentor. Maybe they also volunteer once a month at Red Cross, right? They can actually share their background check with those organizations. And that organization does not have to pay for it. It's already been paid for. And the originating organization that ordered the background check gets a $2 rebate. And we cap it at $4 simply because we can't lose money, but they can get up to $4 in rebates that their volunteers are sharing. And we have saved, we've done the math, and since we've been in business, we have saved over $2 million to the nonprofit industry in background checks that were shared that we did not charge for. We ran it once, it was still good, it was in the 12-month window of monthly updates, and we considered it active, and we allowed it to be shared. So we're finding that this has been very beneficial across sectors or segments, with hospitals who are sharing volunteers, or school districts, or someone might be mentoring at 2 different schools, as well as local volunteer programs, disaster relief as well. We're finding if you're working in one program, you could likely be volunteering in another. And what we're finding is typically 3 times. Volunteer is usually volunteering with 3 different types of or 3 separate organizations, one being a religious-based, one being one that they're mentoring or something they're doing very focused in a weekly activity, and then another one which is maybe a monthly or a quarterly kind of involvement that they have, but they tend to volunteer for 3 different organizations if they volunteer for one. Key differentiators, and how are we different? We are different because we're tailored to nonprofits. We understand your unique pain points. And when I say that, 3 years ago, actually it was 5 years ago, that we started building Verified Volunteers out and our process flow. And we didn't just decide to just go ahead and make a different version of the employment platform. We did focus groups, and we did our research for 2 years, and then we built it out. And we had 400 separate nonprofit organizations and 800 volunteers. So we took the feedback from the nonprofit organizations on what their needs were, what their visibility they needed, and what was important to them, as well as we looked at the volunteer and the input that they had, because we actually engaged the volunteer in our process, and we wanted to know what did they want, and they clearly wanted to be engaged in the process. They wanted to own who had access to their personal data. They wanted to know what their background check looked like. They wanted to have access to it. So all this was built into the VV platform, into our system, into our workflows, and that is why we are different from everyone else and why we're being so successful so early on. Quality and accuracy, again. we are held to FCRA, Fair Credit Report, and all those things that apply to that, as well as handling the data. We are audited annually by multiple organizations for security on our servers and things like that, because we do touch consumer reporting and consumer reports, and we are a CRA, so we fall into those. Monthly monitoring, we go back and we do our database search and make sure that nothing's popping up on any of the volunteers that you screen through us for 11 months after the initial search. So basically, we're doing a background check almost every month for 12 months. You have the initial background check, which includes all the components, and then once a month we go back in and make sure that individual is still keeping their nose clean, or nothing's changed in anything that's been reported. You don't hear from us unless something's different, new, or something changed, and then we would let you know that there's been a change on the background check. Simple self-service ordering process. It literally takes less than 5 minutes for a volunteer to go in and fill their information out and launch the background check. Easy to use administrator dashboard. If you have to come to our system, if you'd like to come to our system, if you're not taking advantage of the integration that we have with Hands-On Connect, we do have a dashboard where you can actually see, who's been screened under your organization, when that expires, how long ago it was, what the status is. Again, with dedicated customer service advocates, we have kept 100% client retention, and we work really, really hard, and that's probably one of our proudest points that we a flag that we fly, is that we are so customer oriented. And we have customized payment options. We understood, and when we did our focus groups, we knew that there were a concern was budget with nonprofits, and you don't have a lot of money, and it's not like you can just move money around if you don't have it to begin with. So one of the things that we did was we created payment options that suited everybody. So not only can you pay for a background check, but you can pay and say, go ahead and ask the volunteer if they would like to pay for a background screen. And the volunteer has the option when they're filling in their personal information, which they do directly into our system. We send them a link and they do this, so you don't have to handle that sensitive data anymore, and they don't have to turn over a social security number or date of birth if they don't want to. We actually allow them to say, this background check costs $10. Would you like to contribute on behalf of the organization you volunteer for towards the cost of it? And they can say yes or no, and they can put in a percentage they want, 100%, or I want to do $5, however they would like to do it. And we're also told that it is considered a donation, so it's tax deductible for them. It's optional. You can do it that way, and you can also make it mandatory, which a lot of smaller programs will do their first year, but they have to do a background program because it wasn't in the budget. Maybe something's happened and there's some concern that they need to, go out and check their volunteers now. They can put a program in place. The volunteers can go in and they can pay for the background check. So you have those three options. 60% of our customers either ask or make it mandatory for the volunteer to pay. Of the ones that are just asked if they would like to contribute, 30 to 40% of your volunteer base, if they're just asked, they will. And I would say overall, within our organization, of the couple million background checks that we probably do annually, I would say that 67% of those checks are actually paid by the volunteer, not by the nonprofit organization. So there's definitely a change in some culture and in the industry and how that's being handled. Volunteer community, again, we have the sharing. I touched on it just briefly on the slide before. Sharing is very important as people, become so active on social media and things are moving a little faster. And if an event happens that requires some kind of activation or mobilization, sharing is the way to go. If your volunteer base is sitting there and they've all had a background check in the last 12 months and they're in that 12-month window where we're doing the monthly updates, they can absolutely share their background check in an instant and be off and running. So we're not going to slow anybody down. Again, we're secure and FCRA compliant, and we honor the same discounted package pricing for employment screening. So what that means is if you do screening for employment and volunteer, our volunteer screens are greatly reduced. The average cost of a volunteer screen, I'm just going to throw something out there, is probably somewhere between $8 and $12. For an employment screening, it's probably somewhere around $32 to $45. We don't charge different prices. Our pricing is subsidized. It's what we do to make sure that nonprofits can afford to do volunteer screening, and we will carry that same pricing over into your employment screening package. All right,
Beverly, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Beverly.
Nope, I was just going to say, Art, I'm going to pass it over to you. I did want to thank you for the opportunity to get on and share a little bit about our organization and tell you how delighted we are about the integration that we have with Hands-On Connect, and that it is different from anything else we've ever done or contemplated doing, and how excited we are about this.
Great. Well, we're very excited. Hopefully, our customers can see, the benefit of partnering with a leading company in this industry and sector, and why we're excited to partner with you. If customers want to see a demo of how the integration works, you can definitely contact us at sales@handsonconnect.org, and we can get that activated for you, and you can begin taking advantage of all the great services and high quality background checks that Verified Volunteers provide to organizations. We also have some more webinars coming up this week. Don't forget to join us tomorrow at 3 Eastern for our Hands-On Connect roadmap, where we'll be presenting information about Hands-On Connect 3.0, as well as additional features that are on the way. This Thursday, we will have our next installation of Connect University, where we will walk you through how to use the process builder. You can always find out about these webinars at handsonconnect.org/webinars, and you can register from there. We thank you all for your time, and we will be posting this recording for you to be able to share with your supervisors and such who are interested in learning more about Verified Volunteers, so that you can take advantage of the integration that we have developed with them. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next Connect Exchange.